Good morning, beautiful beings. So, I'm just giving a quick update, as I promised to do, with my practice of holding coherence within the destabilizing forces that come before and after quantum jumps, or just in life in general, because you can look at things in that very systematic, structured way if you're looking at it as a scientist or a mystic, or you can just, understand that in a more grounded way, these are just the variables that life throws at us. So I want to talk about being grounded when doing this work because it's really crucial, and also magnetism and how magnetism influences us and can destabilize or help us be coherent. So an update on me: I'm flying to Poland on Monday, and I'm going to a situation which seemed to be getting better and then seemed to get more critical. So there's been a lot of stress going on. And then on top of it, suddenly I'm having all of these legal and tax complications for the short time that I stayed in South Africa, and just trying to get what's mine that's still left in the country back over here to Australia where I am. And that's just happened now. I've been dealing with lawyers and nothing I ever want to be dealing with and trying to stay coherent, because when it comes to taxes and when it comes to your resources being stripped from you because of tax or legal complications, that can bring up so much survival fear as well. And then on top of it, my father going through what he's going through is bringing up so much survival fear. And for me, flying, I have had the last time I flew was during an eclipse, which ties to magnetism. And because when you're in an airplane, there's a lot more radiation running through you, because you have oftentimes flown outside of the certain, whether it's the ionosphere, I'm not sure, but we're kind of shielded from a little bit more from cosmic storms or electromagnetics that happen from the sun and such, with solar flares, when we're lower to the ground. And so when we're high to the ground, we're more affected by those. And I was flying through New Zealand when the eclipse was most prominent in New Zealand, most prominently seen, and I fainted and had to be taken off by emergency services when we landed, and it was just not a great experience. So and now I'm just running around. I found a house sitter. I'm trying to get the house in order for them, and I am trying to clean, trying to do my assignment for my certification of psychedelic assisted treatments, therapies that I have to get done before I fly, and I have to leave at 6 a.m. and drive like 2+ hours to Brisbane and catch a flight from there, and then two layovers, and then I get to Poland. It's going to be a really long journey. What I've been doing predominantly with that is not going into battle with my shadow, because your shadow is all the repressed traumas and stuff that come up when you have fear or survival stuff trigger you from childhood, from pre-verbal, from ancestors. As I said, I have generational war trauma pretty severely from both sides. And I grew up in South Africa, so I'm not sure if you guys know, but the vicarious trauma, even if horrific things didn't happen to me, they were happening all around me. And just all of the moving and the disruptions every single time I got into a routine somewhere. I think it's what made me nomadic. I had to uplift, so now I know uplifting and traveling, moving around, but my nervous system is a bit overloaded, but psychologically it's familiar and comfortable. Anyway, we're not here to dissect like all of me. What I want to share is what I've learned with regards to magnetism and being conscious of how you can work with that and specific tools that affect magnetism, like the Q-link, which has the copper coil, which I'm wearing now because I want to remember to take it on the plane with me. Now, people are not so aware. When people think of magnetism, usually most people just think attraction, like chemistry, or manifesting, like what do you want to manifest into your world, and things like that. But magnetism shapes everything. So we start off with, like, I'll just give you the scale of what magnetic fields are influencing you so that you can, as I said, I always get warm when I do these talks. And I'm literally running around doing chores, but I am channeling some information, and I'm piecing together the science that I know and the channeled information that I have, because I am am with the blending of the two worlds, of the mystical worlds of downloads, connecting to collective consciousness through the noosphere and bringing in information that I had no personal interaction with, and then taking the science that I know. And usually what happens is I get downloaded a term or a concept, and then I Google it, and I realize that there's a whole, like, physics theory behind it, or biology or chemistry theory behind it. So I'm just going to explain to you, because a lot of people, when they hear, for example, there's a solar flare and it's causing a lot of disruptions to circadian rhythms and such, which also run on magnetism, because we have magnetic elements in us. I forgot the name of them, but there's a name of what the elements are in our brains. Especially our pineal gland is very sensitive to magnetic fields, and our heart. So those are the primary magnetic organs in our body. And I'm sorry, I'll look it up after the talk, what the name of the magnetic particles we have in us. But so when there is, so the solar storms are a higher level of magnetic influence. The lowest level that they usually talk about of magnetic influence is the Schumann resonance. And there's a lot of debate on whether that actually influences humans or not. But I personally find that I don't follow it. And when I have these huge, like, disruptions, and I'm in a pretty strict, rigorous schedule of keeping myself coherent, and I look it up, there's been spikes and such in those. So I do think those impact, but I'm not here to, like, tell anyone how it is. So then above that, we have the geomagnetic fields, which are the fields that are sensed by birds, like when they're following migration routes, or turtles. Like, animals pick up on them because they have also like magnetic particles within them, which I also cannot remember the name. I will find out what the magnetic particles, I'll put it in the description, that humans have and that animals have. And they are sensitive. They're receptors for the magnetic field, so they follow a certain migration path. That's a stronger influence on us. And also each human being from their heart creates a magnetic field. So the magnetic fields from the heart and the ones that animals follow on migration paths, those are stronger than the Schumann resonance. And then above that, even stronger than that, is Wi-Fi, and then like EMFs and power grids. That's actually stronger than nature's migratory pathway magnetic fields and the human. So that's stronger than our heart stuff, is those Wi-Fi things. That's why there's a lot of people who are really concerned about how that's impacting us. Then stronger than that is the solar storms and auroras and things like that. And sorry, I just wrote it down because I'm trying to remember exactly. So yeah, it's the sun-earth magnetics, basically. With the solar storms and the auroras, that's the magnetic interaction between the sun and the earth, and the stars and the earth, and that's stronger than like Wi-Fi's, EMFs. And then above that, we have galactic magnetic fields. So that's the magnetic fields that come from stars, that come from, spiral galaxies. Sorry about that. I need to speed this up because I have an important phone call coming through, but I just want to finish this. And then above that, we've got the magnetars, which are the most powerful magnetic forces in the universe. Literally, if you're 100,000 kilometers away from it, it can wipe your credit card. So these are the most powerful magnetic forces in the universe. All of these things affect us. When you're doing heart-brain coherence, or you're doing quantum breathing, or fourfold breath, or still point breath, or 0 point breath, whatever you want to call those, you're creating a certain heart rate variability that creates a certain rhythm, that creates a certain coherence. Then that, through the principle of resonance, it activates, through the concept of quantum entanglement, it'll resonate directly with something else that's at that frequency. So when you're in the frequency of joy and all of that, then you're resonating with others that are in the frequency of joy. And that's why they talk about like success principles. If you get yourself into a breathing rate, some of them call it even success breathing, I can't even remember, but a breathing rate that like a successful person or a fit person or an athlete is breathing, you'll resonate with others in that field, and then you're more likely to bump into them in like random places like restaurants and and then you can make connection. And that's how they talk about you can bring in wealth or resonance with a certain reality through that. And then this thing, for example, it's called a Q-link, and it has a coil, and other people who experiment with coils are like Tesla. There's Tesla coils and orgons and things like that. This resonates mostly with your own biomagnetic field. So what it does is that it keeps it in a sort of harmonious pattern. So if you get dysregulated from the radiation in airplane or whatever, which is what I'm using this for, then it will take the electricity in the field and then turn into a more coherent magnetic resonance at the subtle field of your body. So that's how it keeps you coherent. You can look up the technology. It's called Q-link, and it's the like SRT3 technology. Then they have found that like drumming and things like that, those resonate once you're in a drum beat with the actual, I think it was 7.8 hertz frequency of the Schumann resonance. So that oftentimes it's said that when people are in drumming in trance, they're connecting with the magnetic resonance of the earth, which is the Schumann resonance, which is measured through cracks in the earth. There's a lot of debate on the Schumann resonance, but I'm just giving you like very basic summaries. So when people talk about magnetizing something to you, it's very, very important to understand it's not that you're sucking and pulling it in, like I'm magnetizing you and pulling you in. No, it's about just becoming the same state as the thing that you're trying to bring in. And that can be very hard when you are having unknown variables, because this is where groundedness comes in. You do not have control over everything. Those of you who are doing quantum jumping, one of my lovely followers, or I don't know if subscribers, but somebody who watched my video commented that they have been able to break the matrix and have a sunbeam come through their mirror. I've never done anything like that. I've had like temporary flashes of light. I haven't had a consistent stream of light like that. So kudos to you. But sometimes when people have these big things happen, and this is also what's in other traditions called spiritual ego, they suddenly feel like they have a lot of power over their environment, and they do. But if you understand mysticism and the mystery of life, there will always be unknown variables that come in, because life is bigger than your conscious desire to shape and control it to your needs at the time. And really, if you become more aligned with the collective desires, that's actually more stable, constant, coherent field to be part of than an individual's desires of what they want to create. But sometimes when people are still at the beginning of the path and they have individual desires, I'm not saying that that person who commented does. It just came to mind as an event that can happen that can make you think, wow, I'm super powerful and I'm in control. And you sort of schedule your reality and life around that. And you're not that, you might not be as prepared for an event that throws you off. And I have seen, and there's somebody I also listened to, he's not really into quantum jumping, Joey something. Anyway, he talked about this time that he got really sick because he was so aware that his when he was out of alignment and incoherent, that could be harmful to his spiritual development in his field, that the stress of getting out of alignment was so strong, it made him sick. And one of the things that he talks about is really just, and he used this to beat his OCD, really accepting all of what's happening for you. So if you are being triggered by like crises or tragedies or wars or horrible things in your environment or around you, number one, realize that you know it's not your fault that you're there. Say you're in a war. This is the life that somehow your field and your coherence was aligned with. Maybe you made a contract before you were born because there was something you needed to do in that environment. We all come here for different reasons. It's not a sign of achievement if you are living in like a beautiful, wealthy beach town where you get to wear white linen all the time and and you have the money to do like the laundry appropriate in the time or whatever to keep it clean and be outside. And that's something that I hope one day is I can just wear white linen all the time and not get dirty, or just have lots of pairs, so if it gets dirty I am always in. Anyway, digressing. So when that happens, it's an understanding that there are variables in life that will come in to affect you. And most likely they're going to come when you're slightly destabilized. If you are practicing and experimenting with quantum leaps or quantum shifting in your environment, if you're experimenting with energy work, if you're experimenting with how to shape your reality, before and after, those are times where if you did have a contract with some challenging things, they're more likely to come in. But they can also come in when you're very coherent, because life has many unknown variables. But we do have a really huge influence personally on our lives. And that's where this work really matters. But if you believe that there's not going to be other influences, that is an ungrounded perspective, and it can really throw you when the things happen. If you expect them, which I've come to, thankfully, to a point where I expect things to come, even though this whole situation is so enormously stressful, and at the exact same time I'm having to deal with like tax and legal stuff, which mean I worry that the South African government won't let me have my resources that I left there, that I'm counting on to put into this house and my clinic and everything. Very stressful. I expect it. I expect these things, which is what also helps me not go into more fear or more self-judgment. That would be more destabilizing. And in those moments, I do whatever I can to put my heart into a settled and peaceful place. But that can also look like yesterday, I had to cry most of the day because a lot was coming up, because this is triggering deep old things in me from my childhood, from my parents' childhood, from the stories. And I had so many things to do, and I had so many people coming over to deal with things in my house, but I let myself cry. But it was important to not attach to the story. when you cry, remember you're releasing, because tears are a very, very powerful way to release. Some people even say you should let your tears run into your mouth because they have medicine that's going to, like homeopathically, can get you into the right place to assist with whatever's making you cry. And then I went into, my nervous system just kind of went into shutdown because I had just been at the lawyer's for 2 days straight for hours in the next town, when I was supposed to be dealing with all the stuff with my dad and then travel. And then I had all these people. So then I just sat and I just could not do anything intense. And I allowed that. And in each of those places, I went into gratitude and respect for the experience I was having and what it was showing me and how I could move through it. And it was not easy. And then I was, in that sense, I was giving myself the most balanced heart rate variability that I could have in that given circumstance. And then today I'm feeling a lot better and I'm able to start packing and all of that. But what I was guided, and as I was moving through my chores, is to share a message about magnetism and to understand that this is if you can do a little bit more research or get to understand how the force of magnetism shapes you, shapes your consciousness, shapes your body, shapes the land around you, shapes the migratory paths of animals, shapes your circadian rhythms, shapes solar storms, shapes auroras, shapes the plasma and is in the stars and magnetors. This is a magnetic universe. And what we're also talking about a lot lately in science is that the plasma universe, which is just a medium for magnetic fields to run through. And this is what I mean when you transmit and receive. You transmit a magnetic field and you receive a magnetic field. You receive it through resonance. And with this resonance that I am currently working on, I have been able to, I believe, draw in someone to help with look after my animals. I finally, a beautiful community member suggested someone, and he's going to stay here, and he's so lovely. And I believe, and then I was able to organize tickets. I have to drive to the next state over to catch the plane. But I got tickets that are flying through Switzerland, which my being needs to connect with right now anyway. We had some beautiful lecturers in my psychedelic assisted treatment therapies that were sharing some of the ways that they're using this medicine in palliative care and cancer treatments and terminally ill patients, and it's just incredible. And I wish I had time to talk to anyone there, but just connecting with the fields of that country, I think will be helpful in the work that I'm doing in my own studies and practice. And then we're going to see my dad, and we'll see how I work through it there. But if you want to have some sort of conscious structuring of your reality with the grounded perspective that there are variables that will come in and influence or disrupt or cause a restructuring in that area, especially in your in-between jumps when the timelines are malleable, then you want to really start understanding and learning more about magnetism. And you don't have to do it through research and evidence-based journals and all that stuff. You can actually just ask in meditation or in prayer or in a relaxed state, or when you're coherently breathing or quantum breathing or 0-point breathing, to get insights or downloads around that and how you can understand that force and that field, so you can use it in the creation of your own reality. One of the things that the powers that be have done over the centuries is they've reserved the knowledge of the laws that govern reality to themselves before they released it to the mainstream. And originally it was like the Magi's, who were servants of the nobility, who would do all this study and research and share it with the nobility. Or it was called like, a cult or things like that. A lot of things that were in Vedic mysticism or the occult is now coming, we're understanding them through the observation of chemicals and particles and systems, biology, chemistry, physics. So it's now called science. It always was science, but just when somebody puts a science hat on it and it gets like peer-reviewed stuff, suddenly people are like, oh yes, this is normal and this is life, and now I can trust it and pay attention and work with it. Whereas before it's been labeled science, and it's called occult science or esoteric science or Vedic science, then people are like, woo, no, woo-woo, and I can't trust that. But they're all the same. So this stuff has been taught in so many different words and so many different ways for probably thousands of years. But I'm trying to bring these things into concepts and language that are more readily available to normal people who are not studying the sciences and who are just focusing on other aspects of life, like raising children or taking care of a family or doing work to like try and support people in their lives. Or not everyone came here to deep dive into these sciences, but I strongly believe that everyone deserves to know how these things work and these laws so they can apply them to their own lives. And I feel like schools should teach these things. Just like in one of the Nordic countries, I can't remember which one, they're teaching empathy to children. Empathy's got to do with heart-brain coherence because it's about compassion and loving presence. Why that isn't taught all over the world, I don't know. But that's much more important than like parroting information that you're just memorizing to take a multiple choice test that you'll never remember again. There's a whole thing about schools. We can talk about it. But so, magnetism. Remember it. Remember that how grounding is also important in electromagnetism. If you don't ground a current, it can electrocute you. If it grounds through you, it can electrocute you. So think about grounding and inflammation in the body. There's all those grounding mats that people sleep on. So anytime you're working with forces, you have to consider what grounds you in there. And grounding you in our tapestry of life is understanding that it is a tapestry and there are many unknown variables, and that is the mystery of life. Even if you learn the laws of how to control things within and in science, they always create tests within a lab environment, which is a very sterile, consistent environment. They don't just go anywhere, because they know, even in like physics and science, that if you go into the tapestry of life, where there's a lot of portals here and like each person has a different electromagnetic field and these animals emit this frequency, you're not going to have the same test results as you would within a very consistent, sterile, structured lab environment. So you don't live in a lab. I'm teaching you these things that work under many conditions within our reality, but not under all. And also to expect that there are unknown variables. But if you keep trying this and doing this, and those of you who on the comments already do know this to be true, you will see that it does have an effect and it can structure your reality, and it's pretty amazing to watch. Well, that's all I can share, and I might not be on for a few days because I have to get an assignment done, my big assignment, before I fly. I have to get the property ready for the house sitter. I might have to go to town again, which is, I'm quite distant, a little bit of like about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, depending on where I'm going to get certain things. But the place that has the most is about 40 minutes away. And yeah, I've got a lot to do. So I don't know when I'm going to make another video. I'll try and fit one in. But yeah, all the best to whatever you're going through at this time. Thank you so much for all the beautiful messages around what's going on in my personal family situation in life. And hopefully this information that I was given and what I was downloaded with that was the element about the laws being reserved for the few and slowly being trickled down, and that this understanding of magnetism is a law that only little bits were allowed to be given to the masses, starting off with, the law of attraction and such. But it's so much bigger than that, because as I said, everything is influenced by magnetism, from the Schumann resonance to the biomagnetic fields of humans that are also similar to the biomagnetic fields of migratory paths, which then above that, stronger fields of the Wi-Fi power grids, then stronger fields is the solar storms and the auroras, and then above that are like the galactic star influences up to the magnetors. All of those things are influencing us. But because we're part of the unified field, I know this sounds crazy, but even our subtle heart-brain coherence that creates a torus starts creating a resonance in the morphogenic field that affects everyone else on our resonance. And when we're all resonating at that frequency, we then start affecting the bigger forces like the EMFs and the Wi-Fi's. And then even if we can affect what the solar magnetism brings to Earth, and then the galactic, and then all the way, I believe, to the magnetors. The butterfly effect, morphogenic fields, resonance, I really do. So I hope that doesn't make you feel small because there's such big forces. I hope that helps you understand that your effect will affect forces all the way up to magnetors. Okay, I gotta stop now because I got so much to do. But much love. Let's remember to breathe and realize how powerful our breath is, and to hold still points between the breath where the greatest magic and sculpting and creating can happen. In Lakesh Alakin.